Two paths in exploring our creativity. There are two aspects to our creativity that need to be explored if one desires to access the depth and breadth of their creativity. These two aspects give rise to two paths. They are paths in a sense. These two aspects need to be explored and experienced, much like taking a journey. It is only in taking the journey that one can come to understand how the particular aspects works. These two journeys are much like riding a bicycle versus reading a book on riding a bicycle. One needs to get on the bicycle and attempt to find that balance point in order to actually ride the bike. The balance is only found in the actual experience of riding. When these two paths are viewed as separate paths, they end up creating a chasm. This chasm at some point must be bridged if we wish to access the depth and breadth of our creative ability and our creative power. These two paths can be called the path of the mind and the path of the heart. One is the path of the mind, for it begins with how we think and what we think and believe. It is the path of the mind, for we tend to associate thinking with the mind. The other is the path of the heart, for it begins with our ability to feel and sense the energy we experience. It is the path of the heart because we tend to associate the heart with what we feel. The bridge is ultimately about being able to dance between these two worlds and be able to step out of mind as we know it, to be present to the flow of energy giving rise to our desired creation. The chasm arises because most tend to keep these two aspects separate relative to what they desire to create. These two paths arise as a result of the nature of what it means to create something. To create is to bring something into existence. Bringing something into existence lies on a spectrum. It is a spectrum between bringing a copy of something into existence to something never previously seen or experienced. On one end of the spectrum is where something is just a copy of something which already exists. Yes, creating a copy is about bringing something into existence, but a copy is not in any way original or different. It is a copy. But nevertheless, we create it and bring it into existence. At this end of the spectrum, mind knows exactly what needs to be done to create that copy. At this end of the spectrum, the mind is very important and it is essential to follow what the mind knows if one wishes to create a copy. On the other end of the spectrum is bringing something into existence which has never been seen or never existed before. Here, mind is of no value. It has no idea what to do. Mind only knows the past and what it has experienced. If mind knows what to do, it is where mind has been before, and we are not dealing with an original creation. To bring something into existence never seen or never existed before, one needs a different approach. In between these two ends of the spectrum, the role of mind changes. In moving from a copy to something not previously seen or experienced, a truly creative endeavor, mind, as we know the mind, will move from playing an important role to playing a lesser and lesser role to no role at all for a truly original creation. As we move to creating something not previously seen nor experienced, the mind, as we know, can become an obstacle. So how does one approach creating something not previously seen or experienced? Here, two things need to be understood about a truly original creative endeavor. The first thing we need to understand is the role of mind relative to our creativity. Mind is about knowing the world in which we inhabit. Knowing the world is essential for our survival. Mind is about knowing how to do things in the world. The memory of mind and what it has experienced is what allows us to deal with many of the situations we face in life. We attend schools, training sessions, and the like to learn what others have learned about being in the world for the areas of our interest. Or, as a very young child learns, and as we do learn at any age, is we copy those around us and assume it's the correct way to address the situation we're observing. For any situation we face in life, the tendency of mind is to look to the past and what it knows and has experienced to know what to do. Most of the time, mind is very effective at helping us to deal with the situations we face in life. The major liability of mind is that when we are faced with a situation we never experienced before, Mind will look at the past and attempt to characterize and understand the situation. As such, mind never really sees what is being experienced, for it overlays its past understanding on what is being experienced. Often it improperly characterizes what is experienced, yet we have no idea as to how we have improperly characterized the experience. As such, the mind we know is not the mind that will manifest what we desire to create for a truly creative endeavor. The mind that will know what to do in the world to manifest a truly original creative endeavor will somehow be different than the mind which originally faced the situation and that desired a solution to whatever the issue or situation that it faced. In essence, we need to step out of the mind we know, to become open to another way of thinking, perceiving, and believing. So for a truly creative, original solution, we must expect our mind to change. It must in some way think and believe differently than it previously did. What normally happens is we get what we tend to call an intuitive insight that allows us to move in a direction that allows us to figure out what we need to do. Here lies the question: how do we access, find, or make ourselves available to the intuitive insights? How must our mind change? It all depends on what we wish to create. Mind will not know beforehand how it needs to change. This leads to the first path of the two paths in exploring our creativity. It's about learning and understanding this thing we call mind relative to our creativity. The second thing that needs to be understood about a truly creative endeavor is that underlying any creation is energy. Energy is what animates any creation, and it is what gives rise to any creation. Without a flow of energy, nothing will change. That is, there is a flow of energy that gives rise and sustains any creation. It can be said the flow of energy giving rise to a creation lies on a spectrum. At one end of the spectrum is a flow that is so slow it is perceived as being non-existent. At the other end of the spectrum is one that is so fast it appears instantaneous. Two questions arise relative to the flow. One is, how fast is the flow of energy that will manifest the truly original creative endeavor that we desire? The second is, how do we align with that flow for as long as it takes to manifest the desired question? And here lies another two questions. One question is, do we have the patience to wait as long as it takes? The second is, how do we stay aligned with the flow for as long as it takes and not have our attention and awareness diverted? To create anything, the energy of the situation must change in some way to manifest that creation. And most importantly, there is a flow of energy that allows for the change to be made. By aligning with and following that flow of energy, we are carried from where we start into the experience of that newly manifesting creation to its manifestation. We align with that flow of energy through feeling and what we feel. When we feel the passion to act, we are aligning with the flow of energy that gives rise to the creation we are seeking to manifest, whether it be an object or a way of being. Knowing how to align with the flow is what gives rise to the second path relative to exploring our creativity. This second path is about what we feel and how we feel. The second path, the path of the heart, is about our connection with the unseen, for energy that gives rise to a creation is not seen and cannot be perceived by the mind. Mind can observe the results of the flow, but it does not perceive the flow. The flow is perceived by what we feel and sense, and there are many ways we sense the energy of creation. The energy we sense is what gives rise to our intuitive insights. How we characterize that energy giving rise to the intuitive insights is another question. It is here a chasm exists. It is the difference between thinking and feeling, and the difference between the known and the unknown. Creatively, the world of the human mind does not perceive the world of flow. Flow is something we feel, and we are capable of feeling at every level of our being. Our body acts as a magnifier of what we feel to bring what we feel to the attention of our mind. Our body is the bridge between what our mind perceives and what we experience physically. Mind will interpret and characterize what we feel, but we need to be open to feeling for mind to characterize it. Here lies another problem. This problem is about how open are we to what we feel and what has shut down or shuts down our ability to feel. What has been observed and learned relative to both paths, the path of the mind and the path of the heart, is provided in the RYUC websites and the RYUC and Beyond recordings on YouTube. The answers are not ultimate answers. Rather, the information is what has been observed and learned in the author's journey and exploration of our creativity. Each recording, in addition to identifying a place on the legend for the exploration of our creativity, has a path indicator as to whether it is more applicable to the mind, the heart and feeling, or both. The recommendation is to use what works for you in your journey.